Actually, all the questions I found somewhat like it. All right, so I want to go over 4 specific parts. Did I tell you that there's 4 questions on the test? Cool. All right, for the first part I want to look at is lesson 14. I actually want to look at the exercises in our notes. So most of these notes should already be filled out unless you were absent, but I want to go over them again. And I want to look at exercise number 1, part A. On the test, if you are given a system of equations, I will expect you to be able to write out the matrix formula. All right. Recall, what is the matrix formula look like? Oh, man. Oh, it's already up. Still working. Uh, LX equals B. Now, technically, you could say AX equals B because that's what we saw yesterday as well, but it's going to be the LX equals B. So you need to be able to appropriately plug in the correct matrices. So L would be what? Correct. What numbers go in it? Perfect. There is your L. What is your X? X, Y. Very good. It's going to be the variables with all of the variables in the equations equals what is my B? Perfect. I know here it told you on the test it will not. So I need you to be able to identify, given this right here, be able to pull the L, the X, and the B out. Good there. Here's something the test could try to trick you on. What form does the system of equations need to be in? Standard. What does standard form look like? AX plus BY equals C. If you're saying the first one like that's in the correct format, yes, both of them are technically in the correct format, but it must be in this form. It could try to trick you and say Y equals MX plus B. You must then move the X over and put it in its appropriate form. It could also switch up the Y and the X. You need to switch it back, right? Keeping the signs with it. And of course, if you go across the equal sign, it changes signs. Questions on that? All right. Moving on to part 2. This is going to be lesson 14, exercise 1B. So the second part. All right. This says determine whether L has an inverse. How do I determine if something has an inverse? Good. I'm going to figure out my AD minus BC. All right. So what's my A? 2. What's my D? Minus. What's my B? And what's my C? Again, if you thought this was your B and your C, you're still correct because the multiplication is commutative in that situation. All right. Then you just do the work. What's negative or 2 times negative 8? Minus 3 times 5. Negative 16 minus 15. Perfect. If you struggle with the negatives, don't be afraid to type that part into the calculator to get the appropriate answer. So does this have an inverse? Yes. Be able to determine if something does or does not have an inverse. Go ahead. Correct. If you get 0, it does not have an inverse. If you want to write that as a note, go ahead. That would be if I was looking for the straight determinant. I'm keeping the absolute values off of it because if it does have a determinant, recall to find an inverse, the equation is just 1 over A times D minus B times C. It doesn't have the absolute values. Any questions there? All right, so there's the formula. So if it does have an inverse, now you got to be able to find the inverse. So you start off with the equation. Remember, it goes D, A, negative B, negative C. Again, it doesn't matter where you put the B and C. It's all about making those negative. Switch the A and the D, change the sign of the B and the C. All right, so let's do that now. So to find my inverse, I'm going to do 1 over negative 31. What will my new matrix be that I need to work out? Perfect. All right. So now you have found the inverse. I would keep it like this. If you are asked on the test to simply put in the inverse, you would just take all of those numbers and divide it by the negative 31. So that would give you this right here, this right here. So again, if the test just strictly asked for just the inverse, you would go one more step. Now, if the test also asks, use the inverse to find the solution, would I want to take this step? No, you would want to stay here so you apply the fraction at the end of the problem. So let's try that one as well. Go ahead. I did. So negative, negative made a positive. Negative, negative made a positive. Negative, negative made a positive. Positive, negative. Ooh, I forgot the negative there. Good call. Good call. Perfect. All right. So again, if you're just asked to find the inverse, that's the answer you're looking for. If you're asked to use the inverse to find the answer, this is the next process. Bless you. Take this part right here, this 1 over negative 31. And what would I multiply that by? Which is what matrix? Not the what? The B. So whatever you called your B matrix, that's what you're going to be multiplying by. Oh, I don't know why I just put a 5 like that. Yes, so if it says, so on the test, it's going to ask you, does it have an inverse? If it does, find the inverse. Then part 2 of that question is going to be, now use the inverse to find the solution. So you got to be able to get to this point and then be able to utilize it to then, because we're not going to use it to find the X and the Y. So how do I multiply matrices? You can do it all at once, or you can do it in stages. Negative 8 times 4. Negative 5 times negative 25. Negative 3 times 4. 2 times negative 25. Negative 32 plus 125. And it is. Negative 12 plus negative 50. And again, this is why we keep that fraction on the outside to apply it at the end. This is basically just division. So what's 93 divided by negative 31? What is negative 62 divided by negative 31? Positive 2. Very good. Questions on how to use the inverse to solve it. So
Always
correct.
what is that called?
You could call that the multiplication of the L inverse in the B before applying the 1 over AD minus BC. It doesn't have a name right now because you're still in the process of solving it. The only thing that I'm doing is I'm taking this fraction and I'm keeping it out of the problem until the last minute.
Right, and you always talk about the long term.
Correct. And now remember, also sometimes they didn't work out perfectly. So let's say, hypothetically, let's say this was a 94 divided by 31. That doesn't go into it evenly. So over here, the answer would be whatever 31's prime. So it'd just be 94 divided by 31. That would be the answer. But again, we're dealing with a fraction at the very end, not during the process. Any other good questions like that? All right, so y'all can do all of these steps in different parts of a test. All righty. Let's move on to lesson 15 then. In lesson 15, I want to look at exercise 1 again. That's example. Where's my exercise? It is right there. All right, so on exercise 1, again, it gives you a system of equations with 3 variables. It says solve the system out using algebra or matrix operations. If you use matrix operations, include the matrices you entered into the software and then the calculations you perform. So on the test, it's going to ask for each individual step that you would actually do. Knowing that you're going to probably use the calculator, I got to make sure that you know each individual step and not just the answer. So it's going to have multiple parts in there. This is the part you do, then it's this, and so on and so on. All right, so it's going to give it to you somewhat similar to this right here, where it gives you the equations. Give me the LXB.
uh, 2, 4,
-4, very good. If there is a minus sign with the number, it becomes a negative. That's very important when plugging it in. All right. And then what's that? Let me pause real quick. Again, another note, if there's no number there, there's an imaginary 1. Go ahead. Perfect. Why would the 0 be second and not last? Because it's the y. So since the y is what's absent, that's why the 0 would go there. So very good. If a letter is missing in the equation, make sure a 0 goes there. But also, just like standard form of a 2-variable equation being ax plus by equals c, what is the standard form of 3 variables?
AX.
Yeah, that sounds cool. All right, yes. So make sure it's in the correct order: the x term, the b term, or the y term, and the z term. Mhm. All right, now that I have my appropriate L, what is my appropriate X? Good. This time it would be X, Y, and a Z. What would my B be? Perfect. Again, be able to pull out the appropriate matrices. Now we can use our calculator. How would I type this into the calculator? Oh, okay. No. I don't. I don't need the steps. What do I type in? Sorry. Good. You would want to type the L matrix, which is 2, -4, 6, 9, -3, 1, 5, 0, 9. And then on the outside of it as an exponent, write -1. What else? Go ahead. I just rewrote L with a -1 to indicate the inverse. Now, what's this inverse going to be multiplied to? The B. Very good. Here is the step-by-step version of the test. It's going to start here. This will come back in a second. Remember to go to calculator. We did find a easier way rather than going to menu, but you can still use that. Ari found that you can go to the button next to the 9 and then just choose the 3x3 matrix. Okay, it was right there. All right. This is a 3x3 matrix, so make sure you type in the right number of rows and columns. Once you have that, just hit enter and then type those numbers. Can you give me those numbers again? Oop, got hit tab, my bad. 2, 9. Oh, okay, I can go down. 2, 9. All right. Then you just make sure you're scrolled outside of the box. Hit the button that's next to the X squared. It's called a caret if you're a computer science major, or if you're just a visual person, it looks like a rooftop. So however you want to call it, hit that button, make a little bitty square there, type -1 to indicate you want the inverse. Hit enter. This is going to be what the test is going to want first. It's going to want you to calculate an inverse of a 3x3. So this is what you would write or type or select, whatever the options might be. So if you want to go ahead and take this time to write that. So again, you would ask for just the inverse, which in this case is really gnarly looking. So -27 over 340, 9 over 85, 7 over 170, -19 over 85, -3 over 85, 13 over 85, 3 over 68, -1 over 17, 3 over 34. Now, once you have the inverse, what did Braden say you needed to multiply that matrix by? The B. Did you find that to be funny? All right. To save yourself some work, if you just hit the up button, you can highlight that inverse you just found and hit enter, and it'll copy and paste it for you. And then hit times. And this time when I hit the button next to the 9, I'll hit that 3x3, but my B matrix is a what? 3x1. So to go to the column, if you just simply hit the tab button, it'll switch over. If you use the up and down button, it will sometimes it will change the number. So just watch out for that. So make it a 3x1. Make sure you have the appropriate amount of boxes. Right. Once I have that, what is my B? 14, 10, 1, right? And then you just hit enter, and there's your answer. So to finalize this answer, be -185, -2, 8385, and 217. Go ahead. No, I didn't put that much extreme on it. We're going to stay. The test is really just over 14 and 15. 16 in reality was really just 15 with more problems, more advanced in my opinion. More pain, yeah. Any questions on part 3 of the test? All right. So that would be the solution. Yes, sir. All right. So again, be able to solve this system. If I give you the equation, be able to write it in the correct matrix form, be able to find the inverse, and then be able to use the inverse to find the answer. All right. It's going to be in multiple steps so that you're not just finding the answer. All right. We all good there? All right. Last part is still going to be on lesson 15. And had I not got to see y'all today, this has been your all's homework. But instead it is not. But I want to be on the problem set. Number 1, we're going to do A through D. This will wrap up the complete review. So it wouldn't be a good test if there wasn't at least one word problem. You will be given a word problem where you have to take the information out of it and write the equations. Okay. I don't want to run out of time, so I'm going to kind of go through this with you. So number 1, it says a small town has received funding to design and open a small airport. The airport, well, first of all, does that first sentence even matter? No, take it out, right? I don't care why they're doing the math. I just need to know the math. The airport plans to operate flights from 3 airlines. That could potentially be important. The total number of flights scheduled is 100. Again, this seems very important. The airline with the greatest number of flights is planned to have doubled the sum of the flights of the other 2 airlines. Also seems important. So airline with the greatest number of flights is always important. Doubles the sum of the other 2 airlines. Then it goes, the plan also states that the airline with the greatest number of flights will have 40 more flights than the airline with the least number of flights. All right. So in part A, it says represent the situation described with a system of equations to find all variables. How many variables do I have here? It has 3. We saw that in that very second sentence, you're right, where there is 3 airlines. All right. So does it tell us what each airline is called? No, but it does give us a little bit of information. We have 3 airlines. Call them whatever you want. What do you want to call them? Perfect. Airline X, Airline Y, Airline Z. All right. Good. X, what do you want it to be? The greatest or the least amount of flights? All right. We'll call this guy the greatest. And to make things easier, we'll just make Z the lowest, which leaves Y as default to be middle. All right. How you label it is completely up to you, because when you get your answers, you just go back to how you labeled it, and that's how your answers will be. Right? Because depending on how you label will now depend on how you get the equation. All right, so to write out these equations, I guess I'll write it right here. Part A will be here, and then I'll go back to P. It says total number of flights scheduled is 100. What does total mean? Oh, total, okay, is all, but what operation does total mean? Sum, and sum means addition, right? So if all total is 100, how would you represent that as an equation? Okay, it equals 100. Very good. We don't know how much is in each flight, but I do know if I was to add up each airline, it should total or sum or add up to 100. But anytime you ever see the word total of everything is something, it's just going to be each variable added together. Now we move on to that next part of the question where it says the airline with the greatest number of flights. What letter represents the greatest number? X. So we'll start off with an X here. Is represents what? Equals. Very good. Plan to have double. What's double mean? Multiplication of 2. The sum of the flights of the other 2 airlines. How would I write that out? Good. I need to do parentheses because I need to be able to add the other 2 airlines and then double that result. Okay, so we good there? The plan also states that the airline with the greatest number, what letter is that? X. Will have is another good equals sign. It's telling us what it will have. It's future tense, I guess you could say in English. We'll have 40 more flights. What's 40 more mean? Good, plus. So that'd be 40 plus the airline with the least number of flights. What letter is least? Z. You've now created 3 equations. Any questions on that? That's probably the hardest question on the test is just, huh? No, that's just the first part of that part of the question. Yes. Very good. That was where I was about to lead into next. So now to be able to appropriately get the A, X, and B format, this must be in the correct format. Equation 1, is it in the correct format? Yes, X, Y, Z is in the correct order. What is wrong with equation 2? Right? And then the other letters are on the other side. So I need to work this out to get all the letters to one side. So how do I get rid of parentheses? Just do it, right? Just get rid of them. All right, we're going to distribute to get rid of them. And so this right here will become X equals what? Very good. Now, I want all of these letters to be on the same side. What do I need to do now? Ooh, I didn't think about that. Yes, you could do that. I was thinking move the y and the z. I think either way would have worked out for us, but we'll do that. Let's minus the x. So I now get negative x plus 2y plus 2z. Now, why would I put the equal 0 on the right side? Why would I do that? So it's still in order. It separates my L matrix and my B matrix since my B was always on the right side. If you wrote the equal on the left, you're not incorrect. Just yes, and make it x minus 2y minus 2z. That would be an appropriate equation as well. You'll see that both matrices will still give you the same answer. No, on the test, it should accept all. And if it doesn't, I'll be checking over those to give you the full credit if need be. Any other questions there? All right. So now we can do the same thing. You want to minus the x or just minus the z? Right. Why would I still want the x to be at the start? Oh, I subtracted x on both sides. So I'm going to subtract x here, and I'll subtract x here. This will become 0. I just happen to write it on the right side of the equation. But when I subtracted x, there is no like terms. So to write this in the correct format, it becomes negative x, positive 2y, and then a positive 2z. Good. Everyone else? That's why I kind of opted to subtract the 2y and 2z to the left side, have the equal there, but either way works. And on this one, I'm just going to subtract the z over so that I get x minus z equals 40. Go ahead. But you could have also done the same thing, subtract the x and then subtract the 40.
So say you wouldn't have done it your way, the way you originally did it, you would have gotten a totally different equation.
I would have, but the process would still give me the same answer. Now, the beautiful thing about math, there's probably about at least 10 different paths we could have taken to get to the same conclusion. You ever watched that one, I don't know, that show on Netflix? I forgot what it's called. But like as you're watching the show, you get to pick the option that the characters do. Yeah. What movie is that? It's off of Black Mirror, but it's like a different spin-off of it. But same concept. There's many, like even in a video game, right? Depending on options that you do in the game, you still get to the end of the conclusion of the game. Just your path got there was different. Same thing with math. All right, so now that I have them all in the appropriate way format, what would in this case, what would the A matrix be? So 1, 1, 1. That would be the first equation because all of these have coefficients of 1. Negative 1, 2, 2. What would the next one be? 0. Why is there a 0? There's no y. And then negative 1. What would my X matrix be? Good. X, Y, Z. If my memory serves me correctly on the test, it's going to tell you label the variable this, this, and this. So you won't have to pick. So 1, 1, 1. The second equation was negative 1, 2, 2. Third equation, 1. I'm missing a y, so it gets a 0 and then a negative 1. Everyone good there? What you got? This right here from the second equation. So once we work this one out in blue and we got to this conclusion, those are the coefficients that I wrote. So the negative 1, the positive 2, and the positive 2. If you went the other direction, you would have a positive 1, negative 2, and a negative 2, but your conclusion again would still be the same. We good there? All right. What would be my B matrix? Very good. Any questions there? All right. Part C then, explain how you can determine if the matrix equation has a solution without solving it. I'm not going to ask you that on the test. We'll go to part D, actually solve the equation now. Okay. With a 3x3 matrix, I would have to do it by using the volume, but we only know a volume when there's no, we have a triangle of zeros. Yeah. So in this one, we're going to solve the matrix equation for x, where x is being the variable for all three. So when it says, in this case, when it says x, it's talking about the XYZ matrix. So again, in the calculator, you would just do 1, 1, 1, -1, 2, 2, 1, 0, -1 with a -1 on the outside for the inverse, times the B matrix of 100, 0, and 40. Do I need to show that again, or can y'all type those into the calculator? If y'all can, go ahead and do that now. Should have got some ugly fractions. Yeah.
Oh,
You said 200 over 3, 20 over 3, 80 over 3. All right. Now, in this situation, this is a, go ahead.
test. We did the inverse. We got the answer.
Yeah. Because on that portion of the test, it's going to want each step, where this one's a word problem, just asking for the solution. Mm-hmm. All right. So in this situation, this is a word problem. Does it make sense to have part of a flight? No. You need to figure out what approximate whole value these would all be now. Does everyone know how to turn fractions into decimals? I don't have y'all's answer, but if you just highlight and enter whatever the one with fractions are, I'll try to change it for y'all. What was it again? 200 over 3? And then this one. $80 over 3. I don't like the way this looks. All right, so let's pretend I just copied and pasted. All you gotta do now, just go into either one of these numbers on any one of these fractions, hit a decimal on any one of them. Oh, it doesn't do it for all of them? Ah, I thought you just had to do one. The other option there, I'm trying to save y'all a step. All you gotta do is just do menu, two for numbers, and then 1 to convert to decimal. So menu 2, 1, and then enter. Okay. So in this situation, what would be the approximate amount in the for the matrix here? 67, 7, and 27. So go ahead. Menu 2, 1, enter. After you got the previous stuff in there. So now on the test, it is going to try to get a little bit more personal in the question, and it's going to ask a random question. Maybe it'll ask, what is the greatest airline flight going to have? So if I wanted the greatest, maybe in that situation, but this one could be keychains and coffee cups and candlesticks or something like that. Right? So what if I wanted the greatest flights, what would that be? 67. And so it's now necessarily in this one, it was just talking about flights being the greatest, the smallest, in the middle. But if this was talking about dogs, cats, and mice, I don't know. depending on how you labeled your variables, which again, I think on the test, it tells you which each variable is going to be. Then depending on your answer that you're looking for will depend on which answer choice in that solution set you're looking at. Go ahead.
Why wouldn't we just put in 6.66, 6.6 that you want to round up?
So I didn't want you to round up, but this is a word problem, so we have to think realistically. Can you have part of a flight? No. So we have to round there. Any other good questions like that? All right, then that is all that I have for my problem set.